Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my new breakdown of the Batman teaser that we just saw. They've been filming recently. We got a full official look at what the new Batman costume is going to be, and a little bit of Catwoman too. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. This is just the beginning. They just started filming. So now you know why Matt Reeves dropped that Batman teaser last week, because he's like, we know everyone's going to see the Batman suit next week, so we want to show them a nice, better version with a bit of the Batman theme that we're going to be using during the movie. I believe that's going to be Michael Giacchino's theme that they'll use during the movie, or at least part of it. We'll just break this down top 5 style, starting with number 5. So obviously this is a stuntman doing this on the motorcycle, the new Batcycle, whatever you want to call it. It was the Bat Pod when it was the Christopher Nolan era Dark Knight trilogy, but way back in the classic comics, it was the Batcycle. So there's a number of different names that Batman has called his motorcycles, and he has had many, many motorcycles. All this footage just gives you a much better picture for what the design language Matt Reeves is going with for this version of Batman, but the Batsuit itself looks way more hardcore than the first Batman teaser led us to believe, and unless they're going to radically alter some of the coloring in post-production, this seems like what the final coloring is going to be for the suit. Just a dark gray, black color, not too far from the color of Ben Affleck's Batman suit, the Dark Knight Returns inspired suit, or even the tactical Justice League suit, because this does look fairly tactical, yet in a very cobbled together Batman Year One kind of way. I saw a lot of people commenting about this too, and I kind of got the same vibe, a bit of Batman Court of the Owls Talon vibes from the costume mixed with a much more lo-fi thrown together version of the Justice League tactical suit. Like, look at all the knives or darts or whatever he has around his gauntlets there, then the goggles. Obviously, Ben Affleck had goggles. There have been Batman suits with goggles before, and most of his cowls have some tech built into him that make his eyes look white. So everyone's thinking that this is going to be Matt Reeves giving him back the white eyes from the comics. There haven't been a ton of movie versions that have attempted the white eyes. Obviously, there was Batman the Animated Series that did white eyes. Affleck's Batman wore the Batman v Superman Dark Knight Returns suit. Those eyes would glow a bluish white color. But number 4, the suit itself just looks like it's made from a bunch of different pieces of armor that you could go out and buy on the street or from a military store or something like that, like army surplus. It seems like a very primitive early design for him, but not necessarily maybe the very first design, like Matt Reeves is talking about early in his career, but not necessarily Batman Year 1, so like Batman Year 2 or Batman Year 3. That also kind of plays into what he said about what the story's going to be, what it's inspired by, which comic book story they're going off of. But the cowl, we gotta talk about the new cowl. Probably one of the most iconic pieces of Batman's costume next to the symbol itself, or the cape. And obviously in some of these shots, the stuntman isn't wearing any kind of cape, but they might just be using special effects to add that in later in post-production, just because it's easier to do it that way. We finally get to see the ears now. We didn't get to see it in that first Batman teaser they dropped last week, but initially I'd say Matt Reeves is going for a more classic look, like Bob Kane, original Batman vibes, but the fact that the ears are so thin and stick straight up looks closer to the Gotham by Gaslight cowl. That is probably one of the biggest differences from the last Batman suit, pretty much all the versions of Ben Affleck's suits, because he wore a number of different suits, like the Justice League Tactical suit, or the Dark Knight Returns suit, or even the leathery Dark Knight Returns looking suit. Those had much shorter, stubbier looking ears. Notice the cowl itself here too, like zoom and enhance, you can actually see it's made of a bunch of different leather pieces that are sewn together. You can even see the stitches and all the seams, like he's been working on this, just cobbling it together from a bunch of different things. Number 3, we gotta talk about Batman's new motorcycle, the new Batcycle, whatever you want to call it, and then Catwoman's motorcycle, for that matter. This is Catwoman that he's having a scene with. The bummer is that she has a jacket on and a helmet, so you can't see what her actual Catwoman suit is going to look like. Hopefully Matt Reeves will drop another teaser for her like she did for the Batman teaser last week, and you just get a good look at it. There's been a lot of fan art for her, and she's got the short haircut, so we kind of know what her Catwoman is going to look like, but we haven't seen the full suit yet. Obviously, Batman has been working on his motorcycle like he does on all of his vehicles, but it's hard to tell if Catwoman's is a motorcycle that he had something to do with. Did he build it for her? Or is this just something that she could have gone and stole from any motorcycle store in town? Because let's be honest, when would Catwoman ever pay for something? If she saw a motorcycle that she really liked and thought was cute, she would just steal it. I'm not a huge motorcycle person, so I can't really tell you what kind of bike this is or what kind of bike Batman has Frankenstein cobbled together for his Batman motorcycle. But obviously the defining feature is the Batman cowl covering the front. It's like something right out of the classic comics, but they also kind of did something like this during the more recent Batman 0 Year storyline. And that was meant to be sort of a New 52 retelling of his origin story that wasn't necessarily straight off of Batman Year 1. Like, you can see him here wearing a cobbled together version of his Batsuit, and he's got a version of a bike that he's kind of turned into a Batcycle, but it's not nearly as hardcore. The design language has evolved to the point of some of his more hardcore motorcycles later in his career. He definitely grows into this kind of Bat aesthetic with his vehicles, though. He does have a sense for style. For the most part, this looks like a normal motorcycle that he's just beefed up for performance and then added a bunch of armor plating to the front, and obviously for the Batman aesthetic of it all. Number 2, though, Catwoman. Obviously, clearly this is meant to be some kind of team-up moment for them. They're in the Gotham City cemetery. We don't know what they're doing here, and we don't have any context for this scene as to when it's happening during the movie. But from what we've seen, Batman and Catwoman will be teaming up through the course of the film, which lines up with the idea that they're going to be adapting bits of the Long Halloween storyline, which is a big Batman-Catwoman team-up story. But I'll talk about that in a second. There have been a couple other big scenes that they were filming recently that people got pictures of or got footage of. This here looks like a set that's meant to be a version of Wayne Manor that's maybe partially destroyed or neglected. Maybe Batman just hasn't been living there. There's some other signs for a scene for a long-forgotten Gotham City orphanage for Gotham Renewal Corporation. This just seems like it's implying the state of Gotham during the movie is going to be very run down because it's early in Batman's career. He's only just started to clean things up, starting with the worst of it first, the worst villains. A much dirtier, grimier version of Gotham like we saw at the beginning of the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton. There was also a scene yesterday where they filmed Batman getting attacked by a gang wearing a bunch of skull masks. It seems like it's going to be Halloween because there was also a scene with a bunch of pumpkins laying around outside apartments. So it's hard to tell if that's meant to be some random gang or something from the comics, like maybe a bunch of Black Mask's lackeys. But as far as we know, Black Mask isn't involved or anywhere near the new Batman movie. So I'm just assuming this is just some random gang. And it's Halloween time, so there's a bunch of people wearing Halloween masks of skulls. So as you probably heard me say, Batman Long Halloween inspires part of the story. Number 1, Batman the Long Halloween basic plot synopsis. So it's seen as a continuation of the story of Batman Year 1. At least that's how they intended it, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, when they did the story. So this sort of plays with what Matt Reeves has said about this version of Batman, the Robert Pattinson Batman. Early in his career, Batman Year 2, Year 3, he's teaming up with Catwoman. Long Halloween is also a Catwoman team-up story, but the main villain of Long Halloween isn't the Joker or one of Batman's usual major comic book villains like the Riddler, although the Riddler does play an important role, and obviously there are a couple other big Batman villains like the Penguin that we know are going to be in it. But it's Batman trying to solve a bunch of mystery killings that don't immediately seem connected, and deal with a mob through Carmine Falcone and his underlings. Eventually, the mystery assailant is given the name the Holiday Killer because a lot of this is happening around the holidays, like we say, it's Halloween time. While all this is going on, Carmine Falcone and the mob are trying to intimidate Harvey Dent, who's district attorney. During the course of the story, Harvey Dent gets his origin story as Two-Face when Sal Maroni throws acid in his face. It winds up destroying his marriage, and then later in the story he resurfaces as the villain Two-Face. I don't know if it's a misdirect or them trying to mislead us, but Peter Sarsgaard was announced to be playing District Attorney Gil Colson, who obviously is not District Attorney Harvey Dent. So if they are doing a Long Halloween, maybe that's just a fake name and he'll wind up showing up in the movie as Harvey Dent and become their Two-Face. Peter Sarsgaard could be a pretty badass version of Two-Face, so I guess we'll find out when the movie is released. And I won't completely explain the ending twist in case they do actually wind up being very faithful to the comics, but Batman's quest to discover the identity of the Holiday Killer takes him all over Gotham, confronting all of his major villains, thinking that it's one of them, until later the crime goes pretty much unsolved. Batman isn't able to discover who it is. He has suspicions, but they never really out the villain until the person is by themselves burning the evidence. So we, the audience, get to find out who the killer really was, but Batman does not. But there were 2 sequel stories. It's a bit of a trilogy story that The Long Halloween exists in. It's Batman Haunted Night, then Batman The Long Halloween, and Batman Dark Victory. So Matt Reeves could wind up using aspects of those 3 stories for the 3 different movies in his new Batman trilogy. Ben Affleck just did a big interview about his version of the Batman movie, what it would have been and why he had to leave, so I'll link that video at the end of this. But he just did an interview recently where he did talk about Robert Pattinson's Batman, giving him a giant thumbs up. So what I'll do is if there's any really big reveals or if they drop a big Catwoman teaser, of course I'll do a video for it, but leave all your Batman video requests in the comments and let me know what you think of all this or if you spotted any big Easter eggs in this that I didn't mention in the video. Everyone click here for all those brand new Batman videos and click here for my brand new Spider-Man 4 Marvel special announcement breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.